The farmers who built and maintained the most productive soils in agricultural history did not have soil test kits, pH meters, or biochemical analysis equipment. They had observation, accumulated across generations, refined through the direct relationship between what they added to their soil and what their soil produced in return. That observational tradition, measuring outcomes rather than assuming them, tracking changes rather than guessing at them, is the foundation of every serious soil management practice from ancient Chinese composting to Victorian kitchen garden fertility management. Today we are applying that same principle with modern measurement tools to answer a question that most gardeners have never tracked carefully. How long does it actually take for grass clippings to become humus, and what is happening at each stage of that transformation? Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling us what organic material you are working with in your soil right now. Your engagement genuinely helps this channel grow, and I read every comment. Let us get into the science. The measurement tool that made this experiment genuinely informative rather than purely observational was the Nudist Soil Test Kit, link is in the description. Testing 4 parameters, pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, with 40 professional accuracy tests per kit, it gave us the ability to track what the decomposing grass clippings were doing to the surrounding soil chemistry at each biological phase rather than relying on visual and tactile signs alone. This matters specifically for a topic about measuring decomposition because the most important changes happening during grass clipping breakdown, the nutrient release timeline, the pH shifts that affect microbial community succession, the potassium and phosphorus increases that represent genuine fertility contribution, are invisible without measurement. The 4 parameters the Nudist kit tracks are precisely the 4 parameters that change in documentable sequence as decomposition progresses through its biological phases. Grass clippings begin decomposing within hours of being cut and piled. The moisture content of fresh clippings, approximately 80% by weight, creates the conditions that favor rapid bacterial colonization, and the nitrogen-rich protein content of grass tissue provides the substrate that the first bacterial populations, mesophilic bacteria operating below 40 degrees Celsius, are best equipped to process. The initial acidification that our pH measurements documented at day 3, a drop from near neutral to approximately 5.8, reflects the organic acid production of mesophilic metabolism. The simultaneous nitrogen reading showed a modest but measurable increase in soluble nitrogen in the soil beneath the pile as bacterial processing began releasing nitrogen from the protein-rich grass tissue. This first phase, completed within 5 to 7 days under managed conditions, transitions into the thermophilic phase as the metabolic heat of the growing bacterial population drives pile temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. The thermophilic bacteria that dominate this phase are the primary agents of cellulose decomposition. They break down the structural carbohydrates that make up the bulk of grass clipping dry matter, converting them to carbon dioxide and water through cellular respiration. The dramatic volume reduction visible during this phase, 50 to 60% of original pile volume within 2 to 3 weeks, is literally carbon leaving the pile as atmospheric carbon dioxide. Our phosphorus readings during this phase showed the first significant increase in plant-available phosphorus as bacterial cell turnover released phosphorus stored in microbial biomass into the surrounding soil. The cooling phase that follows peak thermophilic activity is where most composting guides stop paying close attention, and where the most important transformation of the entire process actually begins. As pile temperature drops below 45 degrees Celsius, the fungal populations suppressed by thermophilic heat begin colonizing the structurally simplified but chemically complex material remaining after bacterial decomposition. Fungi are the primary agents of lignin decomposition, the breakdown of the aromatic polymer that gives plant cell walls their structural rigidity and that represents the last major organic carbon fraction resisting transformation into humus precursors. The white mycelial threads visible throughout a cooling pile are not contamination. They are the fungal workforce performing the decomposition step that bacteria cannot efficiently accomplish, and our potassium readings during this phase showed the most significant single measurement increase of the entire experiment as fungal cell turnover released potassium-rich compounds into the soil. True humus formation, the synthesis of humic acids, fulvic acids, and humans from the building blocks of microbially processed plant material, begins during the fungal phase and continues through the extended maturation period that follows. The characteristic dark color, earthy aroma, and crumbly water-retentive texture of humus are not the properties of decomposed organic matter. They are the properties of newly synthesized organic compounds that form through the condensation and polymerization of decomposition products into the stable, negatively charged, nutrient-retaining molecules that make humus-rich soil so fundamentally different in its fertility and structural properties from soil that simply contains organic debris. Our final nudist readings at confirmed humus formation showed pH stabilized between 6.5 and 7, reflecting the buffering capacity of humic acids that resist pH fluctuation in either direction. Nitrogen readings showed stable organic nitrogen rather than the volatile ammonium-dominated readings of early decomposition phases. Phosphorus and potassium were both elevated relative to our baseline readings taken before the experiment began. Total track time under active management was 12 weeks. Under passive conditions with no turning or moisture management, the same material reached comparable humus characteristics in 24 weeks. The ancient farmers who maintained productive soils across decades and centuries without chemical inputs were managing these transitions through accumulated observational knowledge. The nudist kit compresses decades of observational refinement into 40 measurements that tell you exactly where your pile is in the process and what it needs to progress. Subscribe, comment with your current composting situation, and we will see you in the next one.